Right, I think we're live. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. If anyone in chat can hear me, just push 1. All right, I'm just going to get started. If anyone can't hear me, then we know that we have a problem. Let me share my screen and get this all said and done. Since we missed it earlier, we had to pick up from the geopolitics hangout that we had earlier. So I want to make sure that we get through this as well. All right, first item on the docket is from Price Economics. Which industries will be transformed by blockchain and the ensuing data glut that follows? All right. Just give me a second. All right, let me explain this out. All right, for all the attention that Bitcoin cryptocurrency has garnered over the last decade, its most exciting contribution may be blockchain, the technological breakthrough that made a viable decentralized currency even possible. For those who are not familiar, blockchain is the cryptographic breakthrough that enables decentralized electronic databases where all parties can coordinate and trust each other without the presence of a centralized authority. While blockchain was invented by Satoshi Nakamoto and revealed as part of his seminal paper unveiling Bitcoin, its application goes far beyond Bitcoin or even cryptocurrency. Its potential to allow coordination among decentralized players would revolutionize the enterprise data space from supply chains to lending to mining. In this article, we focus on the enterprise applications of blockchain. What are company attitudes towards its potential? What kind of enterprise applications are made possible with blockchain, and how much data are they likely to generate? Decentralized ledger technology enables a number of benefits versus a database. First and foremost, the database is decentralized, which allows for participants to coordinate without ceding control to a central authority. They don't know each other, but they can still trust each other. Relatedly, transaction costs have the potential to be much lower if you do not pay a fee to a centralized figure like a bank or a marketplace that's guaranteeing the validity of the transaction. Even with blockchain, there is a continuum of just how decentralized the project is. On one hand, you have a pure public blockchain when any participant can join and contribute. On the other hand, you could have a private one controlled by a company and other parties receive access only on a permission basis. While there is a lot of excitement around blockchain, it's important to remember that there needs to be a reason for choosing blockchain technology versus traditional database. Namely, you need to be able to coordinate between multiple parties without a central authority. Blockchain applications in the enterprise, just how much transaction is blockchain getting in the real world applications? The answer is there is a tremendous amount of blockchain activity among startups looking to replace the status quo. Those startups have somewhat limited traction outside of cryptocurrency, but are attempted to disrupt these centralized databases, marketplaces, and even governments from all angles. On the other hand, incumbent enterprises have adopted a more wait and see approach to the blockchain. Since they are the ones that currently control centralized ledgers, they are not necessarily actively seeking to disrupt themselves. Instead, enterprises have been mostly piloting private blockchains with trusted parties. Some of the main areas where the most enterprise blockchain application activity are cryptocurrencies, supply chain, a decentralized ledger among suppliers and customers to track the origin and status of goods. For example, FedEx has been experimenting with the blockchain for tracking high value goods, and Walmart has been doing so for tracking the origin of fruits and vegetables. So supply chain is good for retail. Physical and intellectual property ownership, from recording the title for property ownership to tracking the creators of music or photography and making sure they get paid. Blockchain is being used by a variety of industry associations and startups to create a public immutable record of ownership. Yeah, so the new way for people to manage all of their photographs, say something like Instagram, you won't need to put a watermark on there, so to speak. If it's on a blockchain, then it's you can certify that it is yours. And so because there's immutability for one, and number two, your signature is going to be on it because its signature will be a hash. The hash will be your signature. Financial services, building a decentralized financial system to enable money transfers, saving accounts, loans, and other key aspects of banks. Yeah, because no need for a bank anymore. Banks used to be brick and mortars. Now it's just lines of code. Smart contracts. Contracts where the enforcement of execution of the agreement is implemented by protocol rather than through litigation. Smart contracts are built into Ethereum and promoted as part of IBM's blockchain's solution for developers. So basically, a smart contract is an agreement between two parties. I put some money inside of a vending machine. I expect a soda or a pack of cigarettes or whatever have you that's going to come from this this sort of agreement between the two parties, the party being the vending machine and the other party being yourself. Video games, a number of video games have used blockchain so that users actually own digital goods produced via the game. Examples of games that use blockchain to assign ownership to digital assets include CryptoKitties and Skyweaver. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Enterprise adoption and sentiment. During Bitcoin's roaring price run up in the late 2017, the amount of attention surrounding blockchain also reached a fever pitch. Here's a chart showing Google search interest for the term blockchain over the past 5 years. So we can see from early 2014 up to 2016 to 2018 to 2019. It did see a spike in that first quarter of 2018. And then it went back down. While general public interest has waned in the past 12 months, what are enterprise attitudes towards blockchain technology? Has business interest in blockchain subsided along with Bitcoin's price? According to a Deloitte survey of industry of 1,386 senior executives, blockchain interest remains high in the enterprise and is actually surging over the past year. So how important is blockchain for enterprises? The top 5 priority for critical is 53%, which is actually significant, more than half of the respondents say, yeah. And then it's important, less than 1/3 say it's important, but not in the top 5. And then less than a quarter says that they're relevant, but not strategic. And then the others is, unsure. This is all provided by Splunk. Of surveyed executives, 53% report that blockchain is a top priority for the company. Only 3% of respondents said blockchain was not relevant. Despite less media attention to the topic, the percentage of executives prioritizing Bitcoin as a top priority grew from 2019 compared to the prior year. So, like we said before, 2019 versus 2018, more than half say that they are making it a priority in terms of the blockchain development. As the hype around blockchain simmers, executives continue to still rank it as an important strategic priority and overall bullish on its technological scalability and business case. That's right. Most companies have not seen real scalability in terms of application. You do a few transactions here and there, but you have to keep in mind that most transactions, at least in the enterprise, can happen in the high 6 figures. I haven't seen anything that's been done from a pilot test case, use case, that would state that this has scalability. I could be wrong though. Nearly twice as many executives feel blockchain has a compelling business case, 83%, than think it's overhyped. Which industries can benefit the most embracing blockchain and where is it most feasible? A McKinsey analysis contends that some industries blockchain can produce immediate financial benefits through cost savings or coordinating activity among permission partners. And so depending on what industry you're in, agriculture, arts and recreation, automotive, financial services, healthcare, insurance, manufacturing, mining, property, public sector, retail, technology, media, telecom, teleport and logistics and utilities. So depending on which industry you're in, would depend on the feasibility or determine the feasibility versus the impact. So public sector has high impact and high feasibility and moderate feasibility, whereas financial services has moderate impact but high moderate feasibility as well. And the other industries are on the low end of impact and feasibility. McKinsey ranks the public sector, technology, media, telecom, and financial services as the industries where blockchain can have a large impact and implementation is relatively feasible. These spaces tend to be decentralized and asset light, making them perfect candidates for blockchain benefits. For many purposes, a traditional database can be more useful and cost-effective than a blockchain database. A traditional database can be private, editable, and organized how you see fit, all attractive qualities in data storage. On the other hand, a blockchain is a chain of proof of work that's an immutable ledger of activity. Using the blockchain for data storage means storing this ledger of activity across all nodes in the network. While this can enable third parties to coordinate activity without trusting each other, this can come at a cost. The Bitcoin blockchain is currently well over 250 gigabytes for February 2020 and only growing. So that means that there's a lot of work going on in terms of the blockchain storage right now. As Jamila Omar notes, for the Interplanetary Database, a foundation dedicated to blockchain storage solution, many of the applications that have been proposed for blockchains, emerging energy markets, music streaming services, IoT, and so on, will require storage of vast quantities of transactional information. Further, she notes that you need to store this data forever, and forever isn't free. As blockchain solutions enter the mainstream, the cost and complexity of managing its data will gain more prominence. Blockchain may be the archetypal technology following the hype cycle espoused by the Gartner research firm. After a period of enormous media and investment and excitement around blockchain technology, a more clear picture of technology promises has emerged. Blockchain won't necessarily change everything and replace every industry behemoth with a decentralized network of owners, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have enormous potential. In the short term, enterprises can use blockchain for data sharing with partners through permission networks and wring out cost savings in some cases. Nevertheless, industry executives remain committed to exploring blockchain, and Bitcoin's continued success means that we may only be at the beginning of the decentralized data revolution and all of its challenges and opportunities. Yeah, because the enterprises that could benefit from it don't see the immediate necessity to jump, and the ones that don't need it won't even bother with it. They'll just use some kind of other advanced database. But what we need to understand is that the blockchain as a piece of infrastructure is an enabler. So it's already set up. It's just a matter of a use case being applied to it. With a traditional database, you have to have somebody set all of this up. And so it has to be cultivated in a way so that it works just fine for you in your use case. But with blockchain, this is already set up for you. 90% of the work is already done. It's the other 10%, or I would say 80% of it has been done, but the other 20% is where you come in as an organization or as a potential adopter to get on board with it. All right. Hey, Jibber Jab, what's going on? Let me jump to the next item on the docket real quick. I'm just going to fly through these. All right, this is from CoinTelegraph.com. U.S. state reps submit bill spurring blockchain innovation in Rhode Island. This is really interesting. 2 state representatives in Rhode Island introduced a new bill promoting blockchain and technology adoption in the state. Rhode Island Representatives David Place and Blake Filippi introduced a new bill on March 11th known as the Rhode Island Economic Growth Blockchain Act. The motion aims to provide green pastures for blockchain innovation growth, ensuring Rhode Island's ability to keep up with the times. The new proposal aims to give blockchain regulatory parameters within Rhode Island. The bill reads, the state of Rhode Island understands that to compete in 21st century economy, Rhode Island must offer one of the best business environments in the United States for blockchain and technology innovators, and should offer a comprehensive regulatory technology sandbox for these innovators to develop the next generation of digital products and services in Rhode Island. The filing mentioned that favorable economic outcomes require well-rounded public-private partnership guidelines. Such partnerships build trust, performance, and accountability, and can be enhanced by emerging technologies like blockchain. The bill voices the desire for blockchain-based filing and record system and highlights potential benefits from implementing blockchain in the health and finance sectors. Noting a need for regulatory reform to put these advantages in play, the document reads, existing legal frameworks are restricting technology innovation because these frameworks were largely established at a time when technology was not a fundamental component of products and services. Technology innovators require a supervised, flexible regulatory sandbox to test new products and services using waivers of specified statutes and rules under defined conditions. The lengthy 41-page filing also mentions a number of other points, including advantages of regulatory sandboxes as well as other applications of blockchain technology. So Rhode Island is suffering the same problem that many states within the United States have, is that electronic electronic development from a innovation standpoint has been hobbled by a lot of the old policies of pre-internet, and so they haven't really developed anything. Okay, well, if you haven't developed anything, you're gonna have to come up with a new deal, a new bill that's going to actually circumvent that. It's about time. In order for Rhode Island to really keep pace with the rest of the country, they have to have a digital economy. They don't have a digital economy and a fourth industrialized industry emerging out of their small state. Man, they're going to fall so far behind that people are going to leave. You don't want that happening in your state. Rhode Island is one of the many states proposing crypto and blockchain bills. A South Carolina bill noting the importance of blockchain recently surfaced, showing increased interest for technology in the U.S. So, if you have the skills to develop blockchain engineering and architecture, Rhode Island may be a place next year to actually put on your list of places to stop at. So, right. All right, this is from CNET.com. The VPN built on blockchain could be the next step in privacy tech. No matter how much we trust any particular virtual private network to help mask our internet browsing, we engage in that service knowing that all of our data is essentially funneled into a single company whose service most of us have never seen or with our own eyes. That's the core problem with even the best VPN. Despite all of the audits and transparency gestures many companies undergo, is still a user trust business. At the end of the day, VPN business success is a game. Oh, sorry. At the end of the day, VPN business success is a game of keeping a good reputation. But what if there were a VPN technology that didn't require you to trust it? Enter Orchid, a decentralized bandwidth market designed to be anonymous and uncensorable. With an app launched in December, you use a unique cryptocurrency built on Ethereum called OXT Pay for private bandwidth as you go, sans subscription. At the core of the experience is a single aim. Instead of putting all of your trust into a single VPN company, you distribute that trust across multiple VPN providers as you break apart the flow of your internet traffic information so that no single entity can use the whole picture. Orchid's end goal is to create a privacy network that looks something like Tor, a system where your traffic hops from one connection point called a node to the next in a bid to shake any potential snoops off of your browsing tail. But unlike Tor, which has nodes that are volunteer run, Orchid node operators have financial incentives to keep speeds up. Orchid's other key difference from Tor suggests it could be poised to stake a claim as the next generation of privacy technology. For instance, one of the widely known hurdles in using Tor is the amount of speed loss you endure as your traffic makes multiple hops between the volunteer run nodes. The same problem has afflicted VPN services, leading providers in the market to compete for the highest speeds, often at the expense of the privacy. Orchid, on the other hand, is promising a VPN unencumbered by slow speeds with better privacy found at each of your hops. Currently, with the results we're getting, we're able to do things like WhatsApp video streaming even over 2 hops, said Orchid co-founder Stephen Waterhouse. A speed boost like this could enable a broader layer of privacy for any internet connected software on your computer or phone without the lags of Tor. There are companies that support multiple hops, but the multiple hops are going within the same server, Waterhouse said. So it doesn't really help that much because that VPN company is still capable of logging all that information with our system. You're hopping between different providers. Therefore, it's nearly impossible to have for anyone to keep a log of your activity. And that brings us to the real limitations of what Tor can do for your privacy, feeding all of your devices internet connected applications, whether a video chat app or your gaming traffic through an encrypted tunnel is traditionally the function of a VPN, not Tor. Orchid co-founder Jay Freeman points out that while people have developed workarounds, Tor fundamental architecture is geared towards use with a browser. It was essentially designed for the ground up to solve a particularly narrow set of problems related to web browsing. So it's just not feasible to put things like a video call over Tor and have it work well at all. Yeah, they're right about this. I'm gonna read the rest of it. They're right about this. Because WhatsApp and these other forms of social media function on layers, on the upper layer stack of the network protocols, and so the Ethernet protocol. And so what's happening here is that the use of Tor can be replicated through blockchain. Now, what the scale, we talked about this earlier, but what the scalability of blockchain is, I don't know. I have never seen blockchain move beyond 100,000 transactions, so I don't know. I'd be interested in seeing how this works out because people who do use, VPN, they use it for a lot of other reasons that may not be sustainable on blockchain. So I don't know. I'd be interested to see what happens. Ricardo Rodney, what's going on? And Man Friday, what's going on? Salute. All right, last one on the docket is from NASDAQ. How blockchain's inherent security vulnerability is costing companies. Since its inception, blockchain has been hailed as a generally safer way to carry out financial transactions, and it is. There's no question that distributed ledger technology, which requires consensus among a large number of parties to approve every transaction, offers a level of security in financial transactions that didn't exist prior to Bitcoin's debut, as well as greater efficiency, effectiveness, and cost effectiveness than current IT systems. Nevertheless, blockchain does have vulnerabilities that need to be addressed, which largely stem from the endpoints using wallets to create and sign transactions before they are sent to the blockchain. These wallets are prime targets for hackers. What's the point of using the secure blockchain if the applications allowing the people to communicate the transactions are vulnerable? In 2019, Ethereum Classic, one of the cryptocurrencies people can buy and sell on Coinbase's popular exchange platform, faced sophisticated cyber attack. A hacker gained control of more than half of the network's computing power and was using it to rewrite the transaction history. Also pulling off a $1.1 million theft of Ethereum Classic from other users, among other hacks that took place at the time. The ETC attack was a turning point in cryptocurrency history, and the media headlines that followed reflecting that reality. So what happened was, in a nutshell, was the bad guys were able to take the horsepower and weaponize it, or the computational power and weaponize it to gain control over wallets overwhelmingly. Woman of the past, good evening to you. Once hailed as an unhackable, blockchains are now getting hacked. Was one such title featured prominently on MIT Technology Review a month after the attack. Analysts everywhere were beginning to reconsider distributed ledger technology is really as safe as its acolytes claim. Yeah, this is true. This is true. Blockchain by itself is naked. The over architecture, if it should be safe because it's immutable, private versus public blockchain permissions, that's in place, but the overarching system is really naked. And so that's where blockchain is vulnerable. What is this? Interestingly enough, Coinbase caught the attack in a time to warn the ETC community and prevent hackers from stealing any funds from its users. It's lucky the San Francisco-based exchange, whose record of trust and top-notch security has earned its reputation for being a sort of crypto exchange standard bearer, caught on when it did, among other hacks that took place at the time. The ETC attack was a turning point in blockchain history, exposing the importance of engineering blockchain in a way that leverages its security advantages and avoids the compromising of its network, while the initial headlines about the hack were nightmarish. Coinbase staved off what could have been a much worse PR catastrophe. That doesn't mean its users have always been safe. While tremendously difficult to hack a blockchain, it's a process that requires a signal miner to gain control of more than 50% of the network's computing capacity. It is quite simple for even less sophisticated hackers to hack the wallets that facilitate transactions over the blockchain. And as has been documented, such attacks on Coinbase users, including as reported by Fortune, tech CEOs and blockchain proponents have been subject to successful hacks of their accounts. The method of targeting endpoints as opposed to entire blockchains reached new heights in 2019. When hackers stole $40 million worth of Bitcoin from Binance during a single transaction in an enormous security breach that rattled the crypto world. The transaction was limited to Binance's BTC hot wallet, which contains about 2% of the company's Bitcoin holdings. But not only hot wallets are at risk of being compromised by bad actors, most crypto wallets on today's markets, including cold wallets, are connected to the internet at some point and therefore are totally hackable. Every wallet can be breached given the right return on investment for the attacking party. What's happening here is that the difference between a hot wallet, warm wallet, cold wallet. A cold wallet is a wallet that is in the storage area that is not connected to the network. A warm wallet is something that's readily accessible but not in use. And then a hot wallet is something that's highly used and highly accessible. And so the hot wallets are ones that are highly vulnerable to attacks. And cold wallets are the safest bet, but like the article is saying, at some point you got to connect to the network. And so there needs to be a better way at managing wallets through some heavy form of encryption. 512-bit be the preference. That vulnerability is costing companies approximately $4.26 billion in digital assets have been stolen in the first 6 months of 2019 alone, mostly from exchanges. Blockchain's endpoint vulnerability must be addressed if companies are not to prevent such burdensome and needless financial loss, as hackers are only becoming more sophisticated. Furthermore, the damage inflicted by a cyber attack is far from only financial. The collateral damage inflicted includes reputation damage and the time it takes to restore trust, as well as the shutdown time required to pinpoint the vulnerability during the attack. So they're talking about remediation process. the incident response process is very tedious. So that's where the problem is. A report published at the close of 2019 by Akamai, one of the largest or the biggest names in cybersecurity, predicts many more weaponized cyber attacks going into 2020. An overlap between criminal developers and nation-state actors creates a very dangerous reality for all financial institutions in the new decade, creating an abundance of zero-day tools for targeting specific organizations. But we mustn't let them succeed. During medieval times, a castle's weakest point was its drawbridge because it was built at a point of entry, and a point of entry is more vulnerable than a 40-foot stone wall manned with archers. So the lords and the kings of the time found innovative ways to defend their drawbridges with moats, traps, and other devices. It's time for companies and crypto exchanges to defend their own weak points from attacks. Blockchain as a database is secure. Sure, let's make sure blockchain as a service is too. So what they're talking about in this last paragraph is basically that, you know, when you refer to drawbridges and archers and stuff like that, active monitoring of databases, you know, cybersecurity, incident response, all of these things are going to come into play. Better forensics analysis on, you know, your whole entire blockchain network, active forensic analysis. There's a lot of ways that we can leverage blockchain and cybersecurity together. And unfortunately, a lot of companies just went out there naked, but this is akin to the way the internet was developed in the early 90s with Netscape and Prodigy and AOL and so on and so forth. No one really thought about cybersecurity from that standpoint, other than a simple virus. And then things got more complicated later. And that's where things got tricky. All right, let me go over the last item on the docket, man. My visit to South Africa last week, which is the whole reason why we're having this live stream. All right. Let me share some of my my notes. Let me share my screen as well. So this is the event I attended last week in South Africa, which is why we did not have a live stream last week. So Blockchain Africa Conference 2020, really dope event. If you go to the community tab, you'll see pictures posted that I posted up on there. You'll be able to see some of the presenters on there. Really dope event. If you missed it and you have no idea what you missed, let me share my notes here. So actually, let me drop that in the chat for you guys, because I think some people may want to follow along on their own. Yeah, so let me just go through my notes real quick. So from the onslaught, DeFi, or decentralized finance, loans allowing for seamless interoperability with decentralized finance, increased ownership and granularization. So what they're talking about here is breaking up the traditional banking financial structure and going to a more decentralized financial organization. And so loans coming through cryptocurrencies would allow for more adoption of loans and services through decentralized finance. And so that's what's going on now from a DeFi standpoint. DeFi savings at an interest rate of 8% is greater than the traditional institutional savings. So you're talking about leveraging these new decentralized finance institutions. Traditional savings accounts have anywhere between 0.1 or 0.001 up to maybe 2%. DeFi savings accounts are going to have up to 8% of interest rates on here. So that's where cryptocurrencies and decentralized finance is moving on the continent. That's what they're thinking. Okay. The lottery, where you can not lose, the winner of the lottery will receive the interest of the earnings as a reward. So what they're talking about is taking traditional lottery systems and bringing them into decentralized finance. And now you're talking about a lottery system on the blockchain and people being rewarded with the interest rate of the investment that's put into the lottery itself. Really dope stuff. You imagine the mega bucks or the mega millions, and everyone plays into it, but your earnings would come through the interest accrued of the lottery itself into one of your digital wallets. Okay, new stuff that they're talking about over there. Anti-money laundering, regulatory finance, counterterrorism, forensics analysis, those type of things are going on. That's some of the frameworks they're talking about over there. Working crypto capital. So the ability to actually, for a decentralized financial organization, but a central bank digital currency is going to allow for more capital in crypto. And so we call it crypto capital. So who's going to be disrupted by this? Trade finance is going to be heavily disrupted by this. Technology like Quarter and Hyperledger, the distributed ledger technology, two leading ones, will supersede that of the working capital and the digitization of networks. So what I'm saying here in a nutshell is that new distributed ledger technology like Hyperledger are going to come in and be disruptors in this area. So the consortium's direct competitors agreeing on standards of operation. So what are we talking about here? You're going to have to build a consortium in order to alleviate some form of standards. So a consortium is two or multiple bodies and within the same industry that can actually agree on standards. And that's what's happening over there on the continent. That's how they're thinking of building a consortium. The manosphere should be a consortium. In a nutshell, it is. It's a consortium of ideas amongst different content creators. All right. So self-sovereign identity, SSI, what does that mean? It's used as a way to authenticate user identity. And so you use SSI as a entry point into blockchain identification for humans or other entities. So three entities to SSI are issuer, verifier, and holder. So these are the three components that make up an SSI or self-sovereign identity. Issuer connects to the holder and verifier connects to the holder. So there's a triangular sort of connection between the issuer and the holder and the verifier. I'm almost done. Just give me a few seconds. So Quelly is a Pan-Africanized decentralized identity system. Really dope stuff. KWELI. So you can Google that for yourself. But that's one of the custom platforms being developed on the blockchain over there. Kiva for the Sierra Leone government identity management system. So Kiva is a system developed by Sierra Leone on the blockchain. Definitely something to look up, KIVA. Binance Labs is a learning institution for free education to upskill people on Bitcoin and blockchain introduction. So Binance has leveraged their platform for literacy, blockchain and Bitcoin literacy. So make sure you check that out. BAAS, so BAS, blockchain as a service. Many other large tech companies have that. Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, Oracle, DigitalOcean, they have their own BAS, blockchain as a service. So make sure you look that up as well. Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, so PAPS, PAPPS, Pan-African Payment and Settlement System. So that they've developed a Pan-Africanist blockchain artificial intelligence sort of system, or I should say, artificial intelligence sort of system setup for disputing issues within civil courts. So very interesting platform. I believe Dr. Sophie is working on this. So let me go to the last bit. The Swiss have made major investments into the continent itself. So they have a blockchain federation set up. Swiss Blockchain Federation. Very interesting things that they're working on. Central bank digital currency. Most countries outside of the West are working on this. So Caribbean countries, African countries, and Central Asian countries are working on CDBC, so central bank digital currency. This is important because when you try to have a conversation about taking cryptocurrency to the next level, you're going to need some kind of centralization of holding that's going to secure a lot of this. I know a lot of people think that blockchain is super secure, but in reality, it's really not all that secure. Okay, we talked about that last article. There's a lot of vulnerabilities inside digital wallets and blockchain that have to be resolved. The way you resolve that is through a central bank digital currency. There will be the major institution to dole out and protect the sovereignty and the assurances of that cryptocurrency. And you need something like that, despite the fact that people want to talk about decentralization. The Federal Reserve exists for a reason. The London Central Bank exists for a reason. The European Central Bank exists for a reason. You could only go decentralized for so long before you run into some scalability issues. Okay. I also learned an interesting tidbit that Vladimir Putin, the president of the Russian Federation, his daughter is actually the head of the Artificial Intelligence Institute. Just a FYI, I had no idea that she was involved in technology like that. I always thought that, she was a model or something like that, but apparently she's pretty smart in this area. So industrialization, this is the last thing before I close out. Industrialization, Africans were 60 years behind the first industrialization. Africans were behind in the second industrialization by 60 years as well. For the third industrialization, Africans were 7 years behind. So third industrialization is internet connectivity, okay? That was third industrialization that allowed for global communication. You didn't have that before. Fourth industrialization, cyber connected systems. How far behind are Africans going to be? Potentially 16 to 18 months at this point. We've been talking about this for a while now in terms of emerging technologies. Where does ADOS, Foundational Black Americans, reside in this area? Potentially they could be 10 to 12 years behind, maybe even 15 years behind. We covered an article back in November or December about the McKinsey report that talked about fourth industrialization, emerging technologies, artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, cloud computing, autonomous vehicles, big data, IoT, and Internet of Things. Where does ADOS reside in all of this? But where does Africans? You can also ask the question, where do Africans reside in all this? Africans are probably anywhere between 12 to 18 months behind the rest of the global economy. Where do African Americans reside in this? African Americans are probably 10 to 15 years behind. Okay, they don't drive the technology, they consume it. And so this discussion is very important because when you start talking about fourth industrialization, emerging technologies, what are the low-hanging fruits of the fourth industrialization? Well, blockchain is one of those. Cryptocurrencies are one of those. Okay. It's one thing to adopt a cryptocurrency, adopt, some of the technology, but are you driving it? Africans are trying to drive the technology. They're trying to drive blockchain the way they think is going to be useful for them from a Pan-Africanist standpoint. Whereas Black Americans are not really looking at the market the same way. And so they're consuming it, but they're not driving it. Africans want to drive it. Americans want to consume it. Black Americans want to consume it. Big distance in on two sides of the spectrum, okay? That's why this is an important discussion. That's why I have to go over there for myself and see it for myself. And so we try to have these sort of conversations. Many people don't really realize how far behind they may very well be, okay? Blockchain is an important piece. It's an enabling technology that can be leveraged for multiple other things. What are some of the areas that Black Americans can actually leverage blockchain? The biggest area where they can leverage it is their tracing back of their lineage. You put enough of this information on the, you put this certified information on the blockchain that makes it readily accessible to institutions who the ones that you do need for reparations. Number two, reparations. You put that type of stuff on the blockchain or on a distributed ledger, that's going to also enable and accelerate the need for direct reparations payments, okay? Cryptocurrencies, okay? That's where all that stuff comes in. Also family trees. You put all this stuff on the blockchain. People always talk about being American descendants of slaves. You can just go back. If you can go back all the way to slavery, then you should be able to put all of this stuff on the blockchain so that there's a consensus built that yes, we can agree that you are an American descendant of slavery. Okay. Where else can you also use blockchain if you're an American descent, if you're a Black American? Well, you can also talk about land reclamation, land appropriation, Black farmers. Black farmers could actually leverage blockchain to actually make sure that they get their proper payments and it's publicly visible, because the public institution, which is the agricultural institutions of the United States government, the USDA, should be able to look at all of this. and have this stuff readily available and visible to the public, so that we know who's being compensated, who's not being compensated. Okay, you can see all this stuff in real time. You should be able to pull it up with a QR code or some other app on your phone that connects to the government, that actually allows you to see what's happening on the blockchain in real time. A couple other areas would be who's been impacted by injustices within the system itself. You can put a lot of that stuff on the blockchain. You file a lawsuit, that stuff gets put on there, and from start to finish, you should be able to see how this all plays out. You're basically creating a digital attorney, so that there's litigation happening in real time. You don't have to go to C-SPAN or some other court TV sort of a network to view all of these type of things. Like engineering and cannabis is saying in the chat, insurance, loans, taxes, all this stuff can be put on the blockchain. If you're a Black American, you should be able to leverage the technology to drive a lot of your initiatives to go forward. Fundraising and compensation from the government and from law enforcement that may be abusing people. All of these things matter. So that's all I have for tonight. It was a great event. I wish people who are into blockchain would have went. I think there was only 1 or 2 people that didn't show up, but they did record some video that I can't show here, but it was actually worth it. And so I encourage people to actually go to the continent the next time around when they get the opportunity. Okay. All right, that's all I have for tonight, man. Please hit the like button if you've not already done so. Share the video if possible. Hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. I did post pictures on the community tab. You should actually go there and look at the stuff that we've posted. Share my screen real quick. All right. These are some of the pictures. Make sure you go to the community tab and hit the like button on those pictures. You can click on the pictures as well. They do explode, or they do expand out, I should say. Shout out to Carmille. She's a blockchain developer herself. She has her own startup. Definitely dope and upcoming in the blockchain game. She's a game changer. Dr. Soapy as well. This sister as well, Dummy Lola. She's definitely up and coming as well. Also Michelle, big time advisor to the African Union on technology. So make sure you check her out. She is something to be holding. You need people like her in your society if you wanted to move forward. Shout out to Victor as well. Victor puts up put up definitely a good presentation on leveraging blockchain and digital identity. They have a very much a working platform. Info as well. He's the head of the 4th Industrial Council over there in South Africa. Shout out to him. I think he did some great work. They're doing great work right now. That's me as in one of the hosts. And this is the picture from the week before as well, from day 1. So on 4th industrialization over there. So make sure y'all go over there to the community tab and hit the like button on any of the content. All right, shalom, everyone.